It's an awesome fighting force, well armed with the latest weaponry. With more than 200,000 men, it's among the world's biggest armies. The sheer numbers would make it a formidable foe for any aggressor. But in reality, this army is not in the business of war, it's in the business of politics. And for decades, the Indonesian army's enemy has been its own people. In the 32 years under President Suharto, they became his private army of oppressors, ruthlessly propping up an ageing dictator, consolidating their position as one of the most politically powerful armies on earth. Last year, in the death throes of Suharto's rule, excessive violence by the police, then under military control, and the army itself finally ended what public support they had left, but not the power.
The military will still very important, I don't say very dominant, but definitely very important political player in this country.
Now deeply distrusted, the army's desperately defending its political role as the guardians of national unity.
The most threatening factor is the possibility of social disintegration in this country. So we have to prevent it.
But as the army digs in, there are now powerful forces looking to push soldiers out of politics.
In the long term, of course, just like other modern and advanced democracy, the military must be contained in their barracks.
This has been an intensely secretive organisation, so it's a measure of the struggle to improve their image that Indonesia's army has, for the first time, opened itself to outsiders. At the northern edge of the archipelago, the province of Aceh is rich in resources like oil and gas. But the profits have flowed to the centralised seat of power in Jakarta, while the people here remain poor. And as in so many other provinces, it's left the locals angry and rebellious. In a bid to diffuse growing tensions, the Habibie government has offered Aceh a better deal.
Yeah, maybe they will.
But for many, it's too little, too late, and some are taking up arms for independence.
They hate about me.
They hate you?
They hate me.
Who are these men?
People. This is my guy and my supporter.
Assalamu alaikum. Where do they come from?
They come from the village.
From the village. Ismail Shayaputra may look an unlikely guerrilla, but his illegal Aceh Merdeka, or Free Aceh movement, is gaining wide grassroots support.
Colonialism. But if we independence, we got 100%. Okay, we got 100%. No compromise with them. Not that we don't have to ask any permission with them. We just have to the Acehnese. We ask to the Acehnese, and this is belong to the Acehnese, not belong to them.
Pernah mengatakan bahwasanya dia.
At the local army headquarters, Ismail is chief public enemy, and Major Azro Budi is one of those charged with catching him in a bid to help keep Indonesia together.
Karena selama ini dari peristiwa mengatakan bahwasanya yang mimpin adalah dia. Jadi dari beberapa peristiwa, beberapa kejadian, menurut pendapat mereka bahwasanya mereka itu adalah negara yang merdeka. Jadi dia tidak mau bergabung dengan Negara Kesatuan Republik Indonesia.
Kira-kira
akan melepas
dari pemandangan TNI akan melepas Aceh sebagai...
Oh, tidak. Sampai kapanpun tidak. Kenapa? Karena itu adalah bagian Negara Kesatuan Republik Indonesia.
To keep it part of Indonesia, Major Budi's troops are in a state of undeclared war against locals, and they're taking casualties. Separatists are kidnapping and killing Indonesian soldiers. But like the rest of the army, B Company of 112 Battalion is a tight-knit unit. When they lost a fellow soldier, Sergeant Rahman Bakar, all hell broke loose. An aggressive army search for the missing sergeant sparked a protest that led to the worst bloodshed here in years. More than 40 civilians died, and despite these images, the army denies shooting anyone, except in self-defence.
Kita menembak peringatan ke atas, itu pun pelurunya tidak peluru tajam, peluru hampa. Kalaupun ada peluru tajam, itu sebagai pembelaan. Nah sekarang misalnya kita ingatkan, sudah ke atas peluru hampa, peluru karet juga tidak mau juga. Dia mau membunuh kita.
Remember, this is an army dealing with its own people.
Well, I think in a matter or in a situation like that, it's a situation facing also those people, groups, aspirations that have also weapons, and they can kill. And sometimes before we get killed, and in order to protect the society, not for the purpose of not to be killed, then sometimes we have to shoot. Yeah.
Pada saat kita nanti mencari, ya, satu peleton yang mencari, itu laksanakan pencarian dengan senjata tersandang di belakang, tapi tetap waspada.
The Indonesian army never gives up on its own.
Itu di belakang.
Sergeant Rahman has been missing for a month. The civilian dead are all buried, but B Company is still looking for their kidnapped officer. These men have no doubt they're working for the greater national good. But as in East Timor and Irian Jaya, the people in Aceh now fear and hate their army. In all these places, the use of lethal force has fueled demands for freedom.
Saya pikir gini, tuntutan referendum itu semata-mata karena tidak masyarakat ini boring dengan daerah operasi militer dan merasa dikucilkan oleh negara, merasa diabaikan secara hukum, sehingga mereka memilih untuk berdiri sendiri.
As they head inland in search of Sergeant Rahman, they're confronted with signs of defiance, demands for a vote on leaving the Republic. The crescent flag of a free Aceh tell these troops they're seen as an occupying force. And there's a sense of history repeating itself. 50 years ago, fiercely independent Aceh helped lead the fight against the Dutch for a free Indonesia. They started as heroes. Indonesia's army came from the people, a guerrilla force rising from every village to end Dutch colonial rule. But as far back as the 50s, the army's main focus was inward. Bickering politicians strengthened the army's political hand.
The place of the armed forces in Indonesia has always been seen as crucial. Before last year's attempted coup, it was seen as a balance to the communists.
Ever since, the army has never been far from the centre of power, a position assured when one of their own, General Suharto, eased the reins of power from national hero Sukarno.
The armed forces now form the main political force in Indonesia. The military has taken an ever-growing role in the running of the country. Military men now hold half the cabinet positions. There are now more than 250 military members in the People's Consultative Congress. This gives the armed forces a third of the membership of the country's highest legislative body.
Under Suharto, the army refined its doctrine of dwi fungsi, its dual social and military function. It targeted any political or social force considered a threat to the ruling regime. The army, or TNI as it's known in Indonesia, became the sharp edge of Suharto's control. Human rights lawyers say 2,000 people went missing during Suharto's reign. It's a role the army now, for the first time, admits was wrong.
The NE was brought to play that role in the support of a certain political aspiration.
Of President Suharto?
Yes, and that is, I think, the start when it was seen that the NE was not playing the part that it should play, which is representing or playing the role to the interest of the whole nation.
Far from defending the whole nation, some units used kidnap, torture and killings in a desperate bid to defend Suharto's rule. It tainted the entire force.
The military only the tool of the government, and the longer Suharto stayed there, the more authoritarian the government is.
Salim Syed is Indonesia's leading military analyst, a veteran insider to top brass thinking.
At the same time, people talk that you were doing that while you claim yourself as tentara rakyat, the soldier of the people. How could you do that? This is the reason why they are now thinking hard, the armed forces generals, thinking hard, what was wrong with us?
While the leader has gone, the army's incredible machinery of social control remains. Throughout Indonesia, the military doubles as a local council. They know everything from the number of nursing mothers to the use of public phones. They say it's for development, but it is in effect a complete mirror of civilian government.
Ya, kami selaku TNI, ya, selaku inovator pembangunan, kamu harus memberikan contoh.
Today they direct drain cleaning, but they also collect intelligence on political views and can stop you getting a job. It's such deep roots in everyday Indonesian society that won't be easy to remove.
We found out in the 1950s that liberal democracy was a very slow process in developing the country. And we still have yet to believe that the politicians can lead and develop the country as required.
Of course, those military leaders want to hold their present position now, just like this. But on the other hand, students are very impatient. They want to see the complete change of the military picture in this country. They don't agree with the dual function of the military.
The most sensitive part of that function is 38 seats reserved for the army in Parliament. That's half what it was last year. But presidential candidate and key power broker in any future coalition, Amin Rais, represents powerful new forces which want them out of politics altogether.
I don't want to see any free seat in the parliament for the military representation because it is against our constitution. All the parliamentary members must be elected through general election, but it takes time. So maybe the problems of the dual function could be solved within, let's say, 6 years to 10 years.
The pace of that change is up to this man, the powerful Armed Forces Chief General Wiranto. He's the Army's top soldier, defence minister and a potential president. As a long-time Suharto associate, he's seen as an old order survivor. At the time of Suharto's resignation, he committed the army to protecting the now despised leader from public anger.
He is not concerned with his people's fate, and he doesn't believe in democracy. He is simply a pure military man,
Good morning, General. How are you? Thank you very much for seeing us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
With the fate of a nation resting on his shoulders, General Wiranto rarely grants foreign interviews. He agreed to see me in his role as a figurehead of reform.
Thank you, sir.
And he has brought in changes, separating the police from the army and banning serving army officers from thousands of civilian government posts. These are the biggest reforms in more than 30 years, but he leaves most of the talking to his subordinates.
When would be an appropriate time?
And these days, the Army's number 2, General Susilo Yudhoyono, is doing a lot of talking.
Evan Williams from ABC, sir. Could we just have
Across Indonesia, he's under pressure to justify the Army's continuing role in politics. He says they are getting out, but in their own time.
There is a thought that in certain degree there must be a political role for the military in developing countries. The question is how deep, how far, and what kind of role to be played. In our situation here, we have to build our new framework that the political rules of the military is to be agreed by everybody, must be based on our national consensus.
But your critics are saying that the reforms aren't quick enough, that they aren't deep enough. What's your response to that?
Well, we have to decide our reform agenda, priority, and the stages of implementations. We will conduct reform without creating problems inside our organizations.
Wiranto is very much under pressure from their senior who retired already, who would like to see him to become the strong man again, and from people inside the armed forces, die-hard people who hate civilian. If this reformation will not proceed properly, election will not produce a strong and credible civilian government, then you bet the empire will strike back.
Acutely aware of the Army's image problem, General Wiranto has told his ground troops to get down in order to lighten up. Such regimented frivolity, a new part of the Army's efforts to show a friendlier face, even if it does have its distractions. As part of the fun, Bandung's Regional Defence Battalion is kicking up their heels for their 53rd anniversary. But this year it's a bittersweet celebration. When these men went through training, there was much more certainty about the Army's popularity and its future. That's all changed. Magelang Cadet College is known as the Nail of Java, a tough boot school for the next generation of military leaders. For 3 years, they go through the same punishing routine as their predecessors. 18-year-old Emir knows that after last year's army savagery, something's got to change.
For us, for the new officer, I think it's our job to get back that good name for the army.
Image is one thing, but their job remains the same. Like most of their superiors, these young men will be sent to earn their stripes in the troubled fringes of what's been Jakarta's empire, Aceh, Irian Jaya and East Timor.
Why is the armed forces very much concerned? It is because of the characteristics of the country, which is full of diversity and fragile, geographically and demographically, in which a little mistake that we make, it will be very costly to the country.
One such mistake the military clearly dislikes is President Habibie's promise of an independence ballot on East Timor. Fearing its effects on other restive parts of the country, it's an open secret. Most military men do not support the vote. At the local level at least, the military is working with and helping arm pro-Indonesia militias.
It is very easy for the military to stop it if they have political commitment to, to disarm those people. It is very easy for them. East Timor has become a kind of very personal pride, If we let Timor be independent and then they think that they are humiliated.
Back in Aceh, the soldiers don't have to wait for humiliation. It's already walking with them. Deploying as if in a foreign land, this is the 7th time they've come searching for Sergeant Rahman.
I'm looking for my friend, is Sergeant Rahman Bagan. And maybe around of this area.
Sergeant Rahman has been murdered. The search is no longer for a hostage, but instead a shallow grave. It's what usually happens when a soldier is kidnapped by rebels here. God knows they've lost enough of their own. Finding those responsible is next to impossible. They don't even really know who the enemy is.
Kalau untuk musuh ya, itu nggak jelas, Mbak. Karena mereka itu berbaur dengan kita. Berbaur, masyarakat itu, kita pikir ya masyarakat juga. Tak tahu mereka itu istilahnya GPLHT gitu kan. GPL, gerombolan pemberontak.
Morning, and Idril leads devout members of B Company in prayers for the soul of Sergeant Rahman. And he won't be the last casualty in this war no one can win. But as with politics, the army believes it has the solutions for many national problems. And it will only submit itself fully to civilian rule when it decides there's a strong and stable government. So far, the signs of that happening are not good.
ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين